Hello and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my Draw My Life video. Never thought I'd be doing one of these because I'm not an artist. I'm just throwing that out there at the beginning of this video. But I did have a really fun time shooting this, and I hope that you guys enjoy learning a little bit more about my life. So here we go. Okay, so first and foremost, I was born and raised in Rhode Island, the tiniest state in the United States of America. Tiniest but best in my personal opinion. My family consisted of my mother, my father, and my older sister, Stacy. I was born into a very loving family. A family where we would hug and kiss goodnight every single night before we would go to sleep. We would hug and kiss goodbye anytime we left the house. My parents would sit on the couch and cuddle and watch movies and kiss each other and hug each other. I was just born into a very loving environment, and I am so blessed for that. I spent pretty much my entire childhood with my best friend Capri and her sister Kiara and my sister Stacy. Kiara and Capri were our next door neighbors, and we had such an awesome childhood. We would play in our tree houses, we would go bike riding, we would pretend that we're the Spice Girls, and we would film videos of ourselves. We just used our imagination every single day. I miss childhood so much. Honestly, the best years of my life. So we're going to get into a little bit of a more serious topic now, the summer before middle school. Let's just start off by saying I was an overweight child. Going into like my preteen years, I was semi-overweight. I wouldn't say dangerously overweight, just overweight. But the summer going into middle school, I went from being slightly overweight to dangerously skinny. I lost all of this weight out of nowhere, and everybody was really concerned around me. They had no idea why I was losing all this weight so suddenly. I looked very drawn out. I looked very sick, to be honest with you. So we ended up going to a children's hospital near me, and I had to go see a nutritionist a couple of times a month. I would have to go on Mondays or Wednesdays or Fridays, whatever it may be. I would have to go to a nutritionist a couple of times a month and check my weight, and I would have to talk to somebody about basically what was going on in my life. I did not have an eating disorder, but the nutritionist seemed to think that something was wrong on my end. Either I was anorexic, or I was bulimic, or I had an eating disorder, and she just made me cry every single time I had a meeting. She would basically talk to my dad as if I wasn't there. She would like look at my dad with me in the corner and be like, "Do you know what your daughter is doing after she is done eating? Do you listen to her in the bathroom? You need to monitor her when she's going to the bathroom. Make sure she's not going to the bathroom right when she's done eating," etc., etc. It was so awful. I felt so degraded. And to be honest with you, I didn't have an eating disorder, but I just lost a ton of weight out of nowhere. But nobody could seem to figure out what was going on. They basically force-fed me these Carnation instant breakfast shakes every single time that I went, and to this day I cannot even look at a Carnation instant breakfast. It makes me sick to my stomach. They would make me eat all of these different things and drink all of these different things to gain the weight, but I just could not put the weight on. I would cry every single time that I went to these meetings. Long story short, I've had nothing but good experiences with doctors and nurses in my lifetime, but I just did not have a good experience with these quote-unquote professionals. They were determined that I had an eating disorder, and they would just belittle me all the time, to the point that my dad had to basically yell at the nutritionist saying, "She does not have an eating disorder, she is not bulimic, she is not anorexic. Please just help us figure out what is wrong with our daughter." My anxiety was really heightened during this period of time in my life because, again, I knew I wasn't doing anything on my end to lose all this weight. So naturally, I just thought that I had this disease that was causing me to lose all this weight, and nobody could figure out what it was. In the back of my head, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's just puberty. Like, I'm changing. My hormones are changing. I'm turning into a teenager. Pretty sure this is just an effect of hitting puberty. But lo and behold, we had to figure out exactly why this was happening. So we left the nutritionist, see you later, and we went to a new doctor. This doctor was incredible. He was so kind. I saw a series of different doctors, and overall they were all just so welcoming and so open to trying to figure out exactly what was going on. For about 7 months to a year, I just had to do so many tests between x-rays, I had to do procedures, urine samples, blood tests, etc. And they still couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. At the end of, I believe it was a year, everything came back negative. And the doctor just said, hey, there's nothing really wrong with your daughter. We can't figure it out. All of her vitals are completely fine. This went on for months, guys. Months and months and months of getting blood work taken, urine samples given, procedures upon procedures, x-rays upon x-rays. Oh, it was such a miserable time in my life. But again, at the end of everything came back negative, and the doctors decided, hey, there's nothing wrong with your daughter. I think it's just going through puberty. Who called it? This girl right here. This girl right here. It was just a change in my body of all my hormones changing and me turning into a teenager. Great. Jump cut to middle school and high school. Middle school and high school was perfectly fine for me. I was well liked enough. I was never bullied, nor did I ever bully anybody. They were actually really great years of my life. I went through all the typical things that middle schoolers and high schoolers go through. First boyfriend, losing friends, making new friends, playing sports, participating in dance class, going to football games, going to homecomings and proms, getting my license, becoming slightly more independent with friends, etc. It was all very cliche. I had a very cliche high school experience, which is perfectly fine for me. They were some of the best years of my life, and I'm very, very grateful for that. I did end up dating somebody in high school, and I don't regret it by any means. But high school relationships are tough. Like, you are so emotional in high school, and one minute we loved each other, the next minute we hated each other, the next minute we loved each other, the next minute we hated each other, we were together, we were broken up, we were on, we were off. It's just honestly exhausting. I give so much credit to high schoolers in today's day and age with social media and everything else going on because, oh my God, I can't even imagine how you guys feel, because high school is a lot of work. I can't even imagine it with all the extra pressures that high schoolers have in today's day and age. My high school boyfriend and I were again on and off again throughout my entire high school experience. We went to junior prom and we ended up winning court, which is basically right underneath king and queen. And then the next day we broke up because I was just done with it at that point. Boy, bye, see you later. Remember when I said high school was some of the best years of my life? Well, here is the real reason why. When I was a sophomore, I was 14, turning 15, I got a job at a mini market near my house. Here I met the best group of friends that a girl could ever ask for. They are still some of the closest people in my life. 16 years later, we have so much fun together, and we had so much fun together at work, even more fun outside of work. I worked there for about 7 years of my life, and each year was better than the last. Here is where I met a girl named Amanda. Well, I re-met a girl named Amanda, and I'll get into that in just a little bit. Her and her sister and my bestie Shauna trained me. So here's the deal with Amanda. Okay, so Capri was and is my best friend. We were next door neighbors and pretty much spent every single day of our childhood together. Amanda was also Capri's best friend. They went to a Catholic school together. I went to public school. When you're 7 and your best friend has another best friend, it's not the easiest thing to cope with. I had met Amanda plenty of times before at birthday parties and such things. She was perfectly nice to me, but there was always this feeling of, what if Capri likes her more than me? I mean, I was like 7 or 8 years old at the time. When I found out that Amanda was going to be training me, I got a little nervous because I wasn't sure if there was going to be any tension between the two of us. Turns out I was completely ridiculous for thinking that. Amanda was/is great, Honestly, one of the best people that I've ever met in my entire life. I completely understood why Capri loved her so, so much. We finally decided to take our friendship to the next level and hang out as a threesome. This would be pretty much the first time the three of us were hanging out all together, me, Capri, and Amanda. We decided we're gonna go to Asia Grill, which is like one of our absolute favorite Chinese restaurants of ever. But unfortunately, Capri ended up getting sick. Amanda and I didn't really know what to do. We were like, is this gonna be awkward? Amanda responded with, I really want Chinese food still. And I was like, yeah, me too. So we went ahead and had dinner with just the two of us, and it was still one of the best dinners I've ever had in my entire life. We just talked the entire time. We talked about life, about boys, about happiness, about the future. It was incredible. And ever since that day, Amanda, Capri, and myself have been the three best friends that anyone could have. Let me know in the comments below if you know what that quote is from. And I'm just now realizing I spelled Capri's name wrong. If you're watching this, I'm so sorry. But honestly, I'm just obsessed with them. Thank you girls so much if you are watching this for making my life what it is today. Okay, we're gonna flashback again to the mini market that I used to work at. This mini market was not in the very best of areas. It was in kind of a rough part of town. We had a lot of questionable customers that used to shop there all the time. We're gonna call one of these customers Large Marge. Large Marge. She used to love stealing items from our store, and then she would try to return said stolen items for money back. One day she decided that she was going to steal a jar of pickles. A jar of freaking pickles. And she was going to return the item to receive some money back. I just was not having it at this point. I was so sick of her doing this, and I was just standing my ground. So I kept saying no. She was saying yes. I was saying no. She was going back and forth with me. She started swearing at me. She started getting very, very agitated. I basically told her, no, you're not getting any money back. You don't have a receipt. We have no proof that you bought this jar of pickles. She was clearly under the influence of something at the time. You could just tell. And she decided that she was going to punch me. She was going to punch me because she was so aggravated. It was the first time I'd ever gotten punched by anybody. Luckily, all of my friends that work there came to my rescue and kicked her the HE double hockey sticks out. But again, it was just like a funny story of something that happened. It didn't have a major impact on my life by any means, but it just gives you like a little bit of an insight on what we dealt with at that mini market on the daily. So basically, long story short, I made incredible friends there that were so supportive. We got to experience so many firsts in each other's lives between marriage and jobs and kids and houses and so, so much more. And we continue to look forward to all of the new memories that we make together. College time. I went to a local college and I went for teaching, of course. If you guys watch my channel, then you know that I'm a teacher. I went to college for teaching, and I would say overall I had an incredible college experience. I would say that my freshman year was a little questionable. The only reason for that is I wanted the full college experience. I never lived away from home. I didn't live away from home in college either. I lived at home, but I still wanted the entire college experience. And to me, society made it seem like the college experience was going out to bars and going to clubs and drinking with your friends and going to parties and just doing all of these crazy quote-unquote college things. That's totally not my thing. It is not my thing at all. If you guys watch my channel, you know that I would rather be like laying on the couch, drinking a hot cocoa and reading a book or watching a movie than going to a bar and drinking. But I just really wanted that college experience. So pretty much my entire freshman year, I would just go to parties and go to bars with all my friends. And although it was fun, I remember just looking around the room while everybody was like passed out drunk, being like, I wish I was home reading a book right now, or I wish I was at home watching a movie. It just like, it wasn't necessarily for me. I would say my freshman year was interesting. I don't regret it by any means because I learned a lot about myself that year. But then my sophomore, junior, senior, and my super senior year, because yes, if you're a teacher, you pretty much always have to do a super senior year with your student teaching, it got so much better. I feel like I found myself a little bit more in my sophomore, junior, senior, and super senior year, and I was able to still have fun with my friends, but do it in a way that made me happy. But yay, 5 years later and I graduated. I actually double majored. I got a degree in regular education and special education, and I graduated with honors. Yay, go me. I was officially ready to go into the workforce. Workforce time. I was ready to be hired by any district. I just wanted to get my foot in the door. It was really, really hard to get a teaching job at the time, so I ended up getting a substitute teacher job, and I ended up subbing for 2 years. At the end of the 2 years, I was like, I need to have my own classroom, so I was on the hunt to get an interview. Interviews are so hard and they're so nerve-wracking. I went on my very first interview and I bombed it. I put my resume out there, I got an interview, and it was my first time interviewing for a classroom. I was so nervous and I just stuttered the entire time. I was shaking. I mean, it was good experience. It was good interview practice for me because I didn't know what to expect, and now I finally knew what to expect. But safe to say, I did not get that job, which is kind of good because I think everything works out for a reason, and I'll explain to you in just another clip what I mean by that. Here it is, my fate. After my second interview, I went on a third interview. By the way, the second one went a little bit better. The third interview, I got hired. The third interview went so well. If you know anything about teaching, back in the day when you were applying for jobs and you went for your interview, you actually had to put on a lesson in front of adults. You had to teach the adults like they were kids. You had to treat the adults, I should say, like they were kids. So I was in front of my principal, administrations, other faculty members, and I had to treat them like they were fifth graders. And I did a lesson on mid, median, mode, and range. And I ended up rapping a song to all of the adults in the room and teaching a lesson. I thought it went really well. I think they thought it went really well. In my head, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is going pretty well. They asked me to step out of the room for a moment, which I did, and then they called me back in, and like I just mentioned, they ended up hiring me. They hired me on the spot, and I was just like the happiest little substitute teacher turned fifth grade special educator in the entire world. It's been 9 years that I've been a teacher, and I just cannot believe that I've been teaching for almost a decade. I've been at the exact same school for 7 years, so again, 2 years of subbing and 7 years at the school that I got hired at. And I just always live by the motto, find a job that you love and you'll never have to work another day in your life. That's exactly how I feel when I go to work every single day. I'm so blessed, I'm so fortunate to have a job that I love so much. I could talk about teaching for hours, so if you guys want like a separate Draw My Life for teaching, I will be happy to do that. About 3 years into my teaching career, I decided to make my own YouTube channel. Crazy, right? I was very inspired by Graveyard Girl and 11th Gorgeous at the time. I would watch their videos all the time, and one day something inside of me said, hey, if they can do it, then I can do it too. That weekend, I decided to upload my very first video. Please don't search for it. It is just terrible. But hey, we all have to start somewhere. YouTube over the years has been such a fun hobby for me. It is never going to be something that I will do full time, but it is always something that I will hold very near and dear to my heart. It is a place where I'm able to express myself and share my passions with the world. It is a place where I'm able to communicate with so many like-minded, incredible people that I would have never otherwise had the opportunity to do so. I remember after I uploaded my very first video, I was like, yep, deleting this channel because I can't handle this. I was very skeptical, I was very hesitant, but I'm really proud of myself that I stuck with it because look at where we are now, guys. Like, 330,000 subscribers later. I love each and every single one of you. And I just want to take a moment to thank you all for giving me this platform and allowing me to live out my YouTube dream. I love you guys for now and forever. About 4 years into my teaching career, I decided to go out with my best friend Capri for St. Patrick's Day. It was St. Patrick's Day. It's a huge thing in Rhode Island. People go crazy for this holiday, decked out from head to toe in green. It's a really, really fun holiday in New England. We decided to go to this place called Bar Louie, and my friend Shauna, that I worked at the mini market with, was there with her husband and his friend Adam. I remember talking to him that night being like, wow, he's like so easy to talk to. I had a great time. He was so smart. He was really funny. He was quite a babe, if I do say so myself. And I remember being like, kind of interested in this one. So I ended up calling my friend Shauna the very next day, asking her what his deal was. Like, hey, what's going on with this guy Adam? What's his deal? And she was laughing. She was like, he just called asking the exact same thing about you. Fairy tale love, right? Not exactly. The timing just never ever seemed to work with us. Literally never seemed to work with us. We went like almost a year and a half without seeing each other again. And then my friend Shauna had a cookout for her daughter's birthday, and I knew that he was going to be there. And at this point, I was like, girl power, I'm going to ask this guy out. So we ended up going to the cookout. We chatted for a while, and I basically said, hey, I'm off for teaching at the end of the week. It was in the end of the summer. Let's get together. And we did exactly that. We set up our very first date. Our very first date of many, we went to a Bolivian restaurant called Los Andes. Fun fact about Los Andes, a mutual friend of Adam's and myself's opened up the restaurant with his brother and is now voted one of the top 10 restaurants in the United States. So that's like really, really cool. We talked so much over dinner. He was honestly the perfect gentleman. First dates are typically very awkward, but this one just felt so comfortable. We talked about family and friends and aspirations and our prayers and just life in general. The day ended with Adam dropping me off at my house, where he tried to kiss me, and I turned and ran out of the car and ran to my house. Your girl does not kiss on the first date. We laugh about it all the time now. It is such a funny memory. Luckily, he stood by me after the rejection, and we officially started the story of us. About a year into our relationship, I bought my very first house. Talk about a rush. I decided that I wanted to live by myself for an entire year before Adam moved in with me. I lived at home in college, and I never truly had the experience of being independent, so this was something that I knew that I had to accomplish before I took that next step in my life. Adam was very much on board. Unfortunately, about 8 months into living on my own, I fell into like a very deep, dark depression. If you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you know exactly what I'm talking about. To this day, I have no idea what triggered it. It was awful, something that I do not wish upon my worst enemy. During this time, I turned into a completely different person. I was very needy, but Adam he stuck by me through the entire thing. There would be weeks straight that I would call him at 2 o'clock in the morning, crying, asking him to come over, and without hesitation, he always left his house and just came right over to mine just to hold me and talk to me and tell me that everything would be okay. He was so supportive at that time, and he still is so supportive. This was a time that most people would have like ran for the hills, and he was just there for every little last second of it. That was when I knew that I loved him. Like, I always knew that I loved him, but at that moment I knew that I truly was in love with him. Long story short, I decided that I needed help. I started to go see a therapist, and I started to take new steps in my life to make things get better. I actually have an entire video of how I cope with my depression and my anxiety, which has been incredible lately, thank goodness. And I'll link that in the description below if you guys are interested in checking it out. Through and through, Adam was there for me, and fortunately, with the support of my family, friends, loved ones, boyfriend, and myself, as well as all the different coping mechanisms that I placed in my life, I was able to get myself on a road to recovery. And over time, I was able to get myself back to a place where I loved myself and I was happy again. I am so fortunate to be able to say that sentence because, again, this was a time in my life that I do not wish upon my worst enemy. But over time, I was able to get myself to a place where I loved myself again. At this time in my life, I realized how much I truly loved Adam and wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. Luckily enough for me, that summer, we ended up traveling to Walt Disney World, my favorite place on earth, and he ended up proposing to me in front of the castle, in front of Cinderella's castle, the most magical spot in the world. I said yes, and the rest is history. As most of you guys know that watch my channel, Adam is a very private person, so out of respect for him, I'm not going to share too many details about our relationship, but I will say that I am the happiest when I am with him. And if you're watching this, babe, I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for turning me into the best version of myself that I can possibly be. By the way, we're expecting. I'm sure most of you guys already know this already, but we are expecting our first child come April 23rd. So like I said before, the rest is pretty much history. This is just a small snapshot of what the past 30 years of my life have been like. There have been lots of ups and plenty of downs, but fortunately, the good has sincerely outweighed the bad. I would like to thank you guys all from the bottom of my heart for supporting me for so long, for being such a huge part of my life, and for being a part of my YouTube journey. I cannot tell you how much it really means to me. So again, thank you, and thank you again. I love you all forever and always. I hope that you're having a great day, and I look forward to talking to you all again soon. Bye, friends.